Hey, happy Friday morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Musings, a very special Friday edition. I appreciate you being with me. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. You know, every once in a while I do things a little bit special on Friday. Well, I'm very, very excited to introduce a brand spanking new book by Dan Derry out of Canada. It is entitled The Transition Between Two Covenants. I was raised in the what's known as the Campbell Stone movement, Churches of Christ. One of the most fundamental tenets of that view, of that group, is that when Jesus died on the cross, the law of Moses was nailed to the cross. On one occasion, a friend of mine, Robert Shank, who has passed away, but a very prominent theologian at the time, and Robert Shank, who had become a member of the Churches of Christ, gave a presentation, and he said the greatest contribution of Alexander Campbell and the Restoration Movement, the greatest contribution to the modern Christian movement was the truth that the law was nailed to the cross. And at that particular time, I was deep in my studies of eschatology. I had come to realize that it was simply not true to say that the law of Moses, was nailed to the cross. And it was therefore somewhat stunning to hear this very prominent theologian, a brilliant man, academically, way up there, to say that the greatest achievement of our movement was in fact not an achievement at all. The more I have studied down through the years, the more I have become totally convinced of how critical it is to realize that the law of Moses was not nailed to the cross. Second, the more I have come to realize that biblical eschatology is covenant eschatology. That is, the Bible does not predict, does not talk about the end of time or the end of the Christian age. The centrality and the foremost importance of understanding the transition between two covenants, the transition from the old covenant to the new covenant, is absolutely foundationally important to understand biblical eschatology. But I got to tell you, at one time in my ignorance, I said from the pulpit, I could prove that Jesus was supposed to come back in the first century without ever talking about covenant transition. Well, you know what? That's still true. You don't have to understand covenant transition 100% in order to understand that the writer of Hebrews said, and now in a very, very little while, the one who is coming will come and will not tarry. Now, in that same identical chapter, he talks about covenant transition. But again, I am thrilled to introduce to you one of the finest, most succinct, easiest to understand discussions of covenant transition that you're going to find anywhere. Again, it is written by Dan Derry out of California. Dan develops the motifs, the tenets of covenant transition, and to show how important it is, he talks about receiving the kingdom through covenant transition. That's Hebrews chapter 12. It's right there, but few seem to recognize it. He talks about receiving the inheritance, that inheritance of incorruptibility, immortality, eternal life through covenant transition. He talks about, and boy, this is a thrilling chapter, Recovering the Image of God Through Covenant Transition. Great, great chapter. Now look, you can tell it's not a great big thick book, but he has a very easy writing style, that is to say, easy to understand. His logic is impeccable. His exegesis demonstrates the validity of his hermeneutic. This is just a great, great little book on the transition between two covenants. Now look, I don't even have it listed on my website yet. It is on Amazon, and it is on Kindle, okay? And it will be on my websites very soon. In the meantime, if you'd like to purchase a copy from me and save the shipping from Amazon, regular price is $10.95 plus Amazon shipping. But here we are. This is April, 1st of April. For the entire month of April, send me an email. Go to donkpreston.com, bibleprophecy.com. Send me an email. Say, Don, I want to order the book. You can pay through PayPal, and I will pay your shipping. That'll make the total price $10.95. That'll save you almost $4 over what it would be through Amazon or someone else. Okay? Order a copy of the book, The Transition Between Two Covenants by Dan Derry. Remember, through the month of April, I'll pay shipping. You're going to absolutely love this book. You're going to be amazed, absolutely amazed at how incredibly powerful, how incredibly convincing the reality of a transitional period, a second Exodus period from the old covenant of bondage to the new covenant world of Jesus Christ that is unending and that brings life, that brings inheritance, that brings us back into the presence of God. Great little book. Order your copy today.